have as far as what they found with prioritizations and kind of helping us kind of classify costs and stuff like that. And there'll certainly be more of these as we move forward, but that's the intent. So I'll turn it over to BLRB and they can take it from there.
Thanks, Carl. I'm Greg. Bob. And so we were leading the effort regarding the building condition assessments. As Carl mentioned, gave you the information. We have hard copies. We'll hand those out in just a minute as well once we get started for those who like to take notes, or you can use your computer. It's similar information for sure. What we would like to do today is, first and foremost, just a conversation. You guys got questions regarding our assessments or what have you, that would be fantastic. But what we've done is we'll start with a really quick facility assessment overview. We did I think, what is it, last month or whatever, a general for the board itself, a quick assessment overview, and we have more detail. And we'd like to march through the facility assessments, the building condition findings, the prioritizations and categories, and perhaps maybe some thoughts about our recommendations or even opportunities for summer work, just on a school by school basis. We'll take about 5 or 10 minutes on each school. You can ask questions, you can provide comments or what have you. It's just, hey, what do you think about the assessments? Where should we go? Anything critical? Are there concerns? And what are those pieces? We'd also like to, at the end or anytime, turn it over to you, Marshall, regarding a more general funding discussion. You're going to see costs that your general fund won't be able to adequately address, right? I mean, there's the key to that. And so how do we deal with this? And we'll talk about next steps. So with that being said, the process in general is, I think we shared with you last time, we're right here, November 2022. We worked over the summer, looked at your facilities, reviewed the study and survey, entered information into ICOS, the inventory and condition of your schools. And now we're just presenting you some more information. I think this is just a start. This is the physical building condition of your schools. This is what this represents. Bob and I are here for the next couple of days to meet with key stakeholders on every one of your schools to further understand what's the educational adequacy of your buildings. Talk about the environments, the instructional components, capacity issues, needs, programs, those types of things. So this is just a snapshot of the physical piece. As Carl mentioned, once we get a full understanding of that too, we'll come back, update you in a more holistic sense too, with what those needs are, and then what we learned here today as well. Does that make some sense? So that's kind of where we are. Once we get that foundational component as well too, then we can discuss about moving into a long-range facility planning effort, right? If there's an opportunity to understand what do we need you to do with our facilities, both educationally and physically over a long period of time, and does that roll itself into a bond opportunity or what have you? So that's where we are.
And just to add, that's where we're going to really involve the community.
Yes.
Identifying what they want to see as their community school district, what they want their school district to look like.
Absolutely. That'd be a broad-based community, district, student, parent, staff, facilities folks to really give us input on what they see those long-range facility components should be. Yep.
And really quick too. So as we're looking at this and as we're discussing all of this stuff items that could be covered through our capital fund? Like, I'm not saying the amount of money, but everything that's on here, we could use capital.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just thinking of that because planning ahead for the high school bond that's going to lapse
in 2024.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So with that, Bob, you want to walk through quickly the facility? I don't know. If
Yeah.
you need this a little bit.
I don't know if the laser on a screen doesn't really work. does it?
No, that's, oh,
Up there,
Yeah.
but then, yeah. So we covered a little bit in the last update. What we had done, myself, Isaiah from our office, came up here, spent a couple days with Dion going through the facilities. We do this. Is there, oh,
Oh, no, he just had something open. So.
okay, sorry. We do this, districts do this typically every 6 years for the state to fulfill a requirement for the long-range planning, as Greg mentioned, and to just get this to get the assessment through an architect or an engineer that then goes back to the ICOS process that Greg mentioned. We enter the data and it basically kicks out a ranking of each individual school. So holistically, your district is on par with many districts that we see. So there's nothing outstanding or that really had us, on edge, nothing like that. You scored fairly well on most of your facilities, and it's understandable that your older facilities were a little bit lower on the ICOS ranking, but nothing alarming. But this is kind of this is how they look at it. Excellent is 100. That's kind of like your car, I think of, as soon as you drive it off the lot, it depreciates. So as soon as you build your school, that's about the only day you're going to get 100% on your school. And then it's all about deferred maintenance or maintenance projects that you do from there on out to maintain your schools. 90% is good. They look at it as fair as 62. 62 is kind of the kickoff or the margin line that the state is going to start to look at. Any facility that you do moving forward that takes state funding, then gets into the asset preservation. So then the state wants to monitor it. That's their whole goal by doing this ranking process. So the next time you take state funding, which is typically at least 30 years down the road. So I won't be around in 30 years. I mean, I'll hopefully be around, but I won't be here in 30 years. But in 30 years, when a school or facility is next eligible, they want to look at that score, and 62 becomes are you as a district maintaining your buildings, right? And they want to see it above 62, therefore they'll give you more state match. If it falls below that, and I can't imagine any school ever allowing that to happen, but if it were to fall below that, then the state would look at it and say, well, we're not going to fully fund your school. So it's a long range thing, but the state has started it, a few years back. They moved from a BCA scoring to the ICOS scoring. This is now a way to see how your buildings stack up inwardly and then amongst other districts.
So just to clarify, just check my understanding.
Yeah, sorry.
If you can't afford to keep your schools up, they'll cut your funding.
In 30 years, you have to take but you have to take state funding first. That then puts you in the asset preservation program. Then you have 30 years on the clock.
Yeah, I just find it funny.
I know.
Concept, so I'm like,
And I mean,
yeah.
just to kind of clarify the state matching piece is that each school is eligible basically every 30 years
Yes.
to get state matching funds. And there's a complicated formula that determines how much state matching funds you get. But in general, if we put in about $30 million toward a school, the state might match 10 to 12 million. But we would have to come up with the 30 million to get the 12, and that slides as our 30 million number goes down, their matching goes down as well.
What's even more interesting too, and you guys can politicize this if you want to, but so they'll give you a state match for those dollars, but they'll also then expect you to pay Washington State sales tax out of that.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, we could go down a rabbit hole.
Hey, sorry, yeah, I should have
No,
brought that up.
I
It's just interesting.
kind of took us there. So, and we will, for the remainder of this year, as we have check-ins and we're talking about it, these will be things that we will continue to talk about, concepts that we'll talk about. So, because, let's see,
It should work. Did you talk too long on the slide?
I don't know, maybe. There we go. That one. Okay, so building conditions. First of all, and we mentioned this in because I remember I skipped over and Greg came back to it. Structurally, everything's structurally sound in your facilities. There, nothing again.
There's no
overly
real
alarming.
safety concerns about the structure.
Right. Low ratings are generally due to aging, worn systems. Again, it's not that they're not maintained, but buildings eventually, like everything, no matter how you maintain them, after so many buffing and waxings and, roofs replacements, they just age naturally. Last capital facilities bond was in 2017, 13.7. You probably already know this, for your steam, grandstands, and security upgrades. What we did today, you're going to see.
Here, I'll handle, you go ahead and go through that, Bob.
Yeah, so these are the same.
These are hard copies to what we sent, which is a bit more if you want to use that.
So the colorful 11 by 17s that you're about to see, they are to the heart of our assessment that we did as BLRB. The 8.5 by 11 pages are the same numbers, just multiple ways of categorizing those numbers. And we'll go through that at the end of the presentation. If there's a way you kind of literally want to sort of slice and dice these numbers, we have it broken out for you. So there's numerous ways that we're going to look at these numbers tonight, and hopefully it's more clear than it becomes confusing. And if there's one item that you gravitate to, we'll talk about each one. But to the point, what we did as we looked at the need and what we see as maybe things that, whether it's a summer works project or levy or something coming up down the future, things that, we just tried to prioritize them in what, in our opinion, and we'll have that discussion, what we see as being a top priority. So priority number one. So something that might be underperforming, it might be a mechanical system, it might be a flooring system. Something that maybe in the next 1 to 3 years, you want to talk about replacement, just to get it on your radar. Priority two, poor condition, maybe coming to the end of its useful life, maybe somewhere in the 2 to 5 year replacement. And then priority three, well, we can all read, acceptable at the time of construction, but once again, through maybe 30 years, 40 years of age, it's time to start looking at it, just to get it on your radar, to start planning and budgeting for. Priority four, past useful life. Again.
But it's still working, it's still
Right.
functioning like it should.
Again, if it's a priority, it just means we look at it and think, this might be something like you would do at your home or, apartment or whatever. If it needs to be maintained, you might want to start thinking about budgeting for it and, what that funding source looks like. I don't know. We're going to talk about that a little bit or start the conversation. Priority five, deferred maintenance list, hit your deferred maintenance, start a budget for replacement 5 to 10 years out. So with that, that's kind of how we prioritize things. The next thing we did, and I'm just gonna, so I'll point here in the white column here is what these codes mean. So as you go down, and I know the list is extensive, so try to not read too far ahead into this. We'll come back to this document, but we broke out the document. Again, is it MEP stands for mechanical, electrical, or plumbing? So that's what that means. So energy improvements, electrical panels, windows, light fixtures, maybe doing LEDs for your lighting, stuff like that. Light safety, is there a fire issue, egress, stairs, ramps, hardware?
Fire alarms, sprinklers, those types of pieces. But lots of your buildings may have been built with a different type of fire alarm system or no sprinklers because they weren't required by code at that time. We're looking at it, current codes and those types of things. So you're not, just to give you an understanding, we'll talk about that.
So it's not that they're really deficient, but in today's standards,
if we built a school building, we'd have to put in a sprinkler system or something.
Security, cameras, exit hardware, code, ADA, accessibility, stairs, handrails, plumbing fixtures. We all understand the needs. well, most of us, I didn't get the concept of ADA, and that, again, older facilities, albeit grandfathered in. As we move forward, those things are always improving, so there's always need, no matter what school you go to. Finishes, those are just things, on casework, how long have they been, in use? They suffer wear and tear, chipping, breaking. Let's see, data communications, just your intercom, telecom systems, envelope. Building envelopes, again, as you might imagine in today's world, as we're trying to be more energy efficient, think of it this way, there's just almost every year, the energy code is telling us to add an extra layer of insulation, extra inch, right? So what used to be minimal insulation, because we lived in a moderate climate in the Northwest, doesn't matter anymore. Now they want, 5, 6 inches of insulation. More is better in their eyes. So as we look at envelope, but
it also, yeah, just to clarify, it's just not insulation or energy efficiency
Right.
within your building envelope. It's water intrusion, it's
Right.
your siding, it's maintaining, painting and sealing, because that really starts to, roofing, that extends to building life. So that's the importance of the building.
right, most of your buildings, like the stucco at the middle school or the fiber cement boards at the brand new high school or the new high school, they're called rain screens, right? They're the first layer of defense to protect your building. So that's all inclusive in envelopes. Existing issues for repair, we have like roof leaks, maybe some ceilings. Oftentimes when we, see, thankfully, I don't think we see one here, but if we're all aware of water damage that shows up on the tile. Is that because of a roof leak or a pipe leak? Occupant comfort, thermostats and HVAC, right? That can tie back to, is your building insulated, but how well is your mechanical system working? Modern buildings just have more occupant turnover, higher rates, higher airflows that traditionally happen to try and keep that level of comfort up. And then, of course, there's always site issues like gates and parking lots, alligatoring, stuff that, the asphalt maybe restriping. So we're gonna start.
Just before you start on the buildings, and we'll spend 5 or 10 minutes on each building as well, as long as you want to, actually, but thought we'd go through. At the very, very back is where there's some summary of costs, starting at page 14, the prioritization cost summaries for each of the buildings that we'll go through tonight. Then as you go through on, starting on page 17, it starts to categorize them. It's a different way to look at it, from the energies to the life safeties to the securities, et cetera. So I don't know if that summary is more helpful than the detail. It's up to you. We gave these for you to look at, but we're just going to talk about generalizations here. Get your comments, and like you say, we'll be back with more information and progress as we move through this process. Go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
No, great. I mean, I'm throwing a lot of information at you. So anytime you want to raise your hand or stop me, please do. We just have a lot to get through, and I want to make sure that there's plenty of time for discussion. And so that's just kind of where we started, why we're doing what we're doing, and how we ranked some of the information that you have in front of you. So starting with the administration building. We're in the administration building. So built in 1938, additions in 1995, and modernized. It gets an ICOS rating of 78.45, which is a pretty good rating. Yeah, for a building that started in 1938. It's in pretty good shape.
You guys have kept it up well.
Yes, all the buildings are kept up well.
Yeah.
It's just that, some of them, there's, as we say, you can't fight time, father time. So architecturally, primary deficiencies, fixed furnishings, some of the stuff that's been in here since maybe 1938. It works. I'm sure it does. Everybody learns how to get by in their spaces. We've all been in, and we're pretty adaptable as humans to what, making stuff work. We bring in stuff from the outside. We deal with what's in the room currently. VCT flooring, it's waxed, it's well maintained. There's some issues in it. There's some cracking. It might be something to look at. if you're doing a full remodel, there's just better products out there that maybe don't take all the time that it takes to service waxing floors. VCT, albeit shiny and beautiful at times, as far as environmentally and the time it takes to maintain, can be pretty, can kind of be a daunting task for maintenance, we know. Exterior windows, once again, your windows are double paned windows, but we've noticed that there's some seam failures. So I don't know that there's, that they're well insulated, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're well insulated anymore. So it might be time to think about that. That's a big project, however. Structurally, exterior finishes are showing signs of wear, generally maintained as needed. Structurally, it's fine. Electrical, there are some original 1938 panels showing some rust, things that might need to, panel upgrades that could happen. You have fluorescent lighting, which is tried and true. Every school I've ever known has had it, but now things are switching over to LEDs, which whether the whole system is or just the lights themselves, it can be a cost efficiency thing we want to talk about. Fire alarm system is non-addressable. Again, the time that it was built, that's acceptable. It means that, they're not necessarily hooked up.
Yeah, they don't communicate with each other, the building. You don't have a panel that immediately says, where's the fire, where's the start, right? It's just, we just know, and we have better technology than some of these older systems.
Yeah.
Really quick question on the lighting piece. So you mentioned some maybe eligible for lighting rebate. Is that a substantial rebate or is that?
So
de minimis?
I don't have a number for you, and we can start scratching around.
Okay.
There are rebates, and have you guys been involved or heard of ESCOs, Energy Savings Corporations? They can come in like a McKinstry or an Apollo engineer. They can come in, they can give you a cost for replacing all of these fluorescent lights to LED lights, and then pay you over time with the energy savings for that cost difference. Does that make some sense?
Yeah.
So there's that, and they'll use those rebates from the energy companies to help offset those costs.
Okay.
We could dig into that
Yeah.
further, but that's an avenue you
Okay.
can pursue.
Well, and I guess I'm just more curious, the low to high range in here of 270 to 300, I'm assuming that doesn't include any proposed rebates.
That's correct.
So it would be a lower.
You could, right, exactly. And if those are interested, we could start to pursue or investigate a little bit more in detail what that could be.
Okay.
Right. So what Greg was saying is there's a lot of contracting companies. McKinstry is probably the biggest. They like to come into districts and talk about refurbishing or, redoing your lights. They could do windows as well. So that's something that can go in there because you can get some rebates. And again, as long as you're saving energy, there's funding at times available for window replacements, mechanical systems as well. So they do that often where they come in and they do that as a small works project. And that oftentimes doesn't take an architect or an engineer to do. They do that all in-house. So
with that being said, as we move through this progress and this process, understand some of those return on investments, especially for Windows, well, there's 20 years.
yeah,
If you're not going to think that one of your buildings needs replacement because of educational issues or capacity, those are things to think about, right? And will help us. We'll start to walk through those pieces.
a lot of that is what Greg said, life cycle costs is what we call them, right? So you pay X amount of dollars now, and by the time you kind of get the payback, it could easily.
Because of energy savings or what have you. Some of those could be pretty extended.
Yeah. Mechanical, old boiler, flue discharge chimney. That's one of the things where it's just non-insulated. So moisture inside there, that's probably one of the higher items that we might look at. And I don't think the cost of that is all that great. Some pump repair, older steel piping, rooftops, inlet. Again, it's all, not only is it in the report, these are just some highlights, if you will, of things that we see that kind of rise to the top. Replacing the heating system, compression tank. So based on the colorful graphics on the 11 by 17, You see the high to lows. We've broken it out in every building. This is the priority list. If you took all the from the admin, from the chart, if you took all the priority ones, you're looking, the only one, I think it's one issue. I think maybe that might be the
Boiler.
The old boiler flue is
Okay, the
one,
old
yeah.
boiler flue, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a 7,000 to 10,000 cost item in our thought. Priority 2 items, all in total, you have $1 million to $1.6 million, $1.2 million to $1.6 million. Priority 3, $1 million item to $1.6 million. Priority 4, $150,000 to $200,000. And then, of course, priority 5, $300,000 to $800,000. And with a total range of 2.7 million to 4.6 million. One of the reasons we're here today, and we're going to be here for a couple more days, is to do a facility an educational assessment as well, talking about portables, student housing, other aspects besides just the facilities. So that will eventually tie into, even though that's a priority, what is, the conversation that revolves around the administration building, what is the useful life of this? Is it worth investing money? Does it want a full remodel? Or are there plans to move somewhere else? So we're going to keep kind of coming around, doing a circle, and then coming back to items as we talk about this. As I said, the priority 2 items, is probably a 2 to 5 year thought about planning. Priority 3 is, in your 3 to 5 to 6 years, and then so on and so forth, just a little further out. So you do have some items that probably want to be looked at in the next 5 years. And, whether that's through capital funding or levies, some of it can be done, not all through capital projects.
Quick question on just so that I'm clear.
Yes.
When it says summer work, is that saying like propose more immediacy of work, or is that just saying that work needs to be done during the summer?
No, could be done in the summer. It's just a recommendation. That's really a
Okay.
good point.
Yeah.
So this is like a window replacement. You could,
Right.
if prepared properly, if you have the funds, you could do something like that over a summer.
Gotcha.
And understand and when we talk about BLRB recommendations, and we'll get there soon, is we looked at it in a couple different ways. If there was something that we said, you need to address this immediately, and you have very few of those, I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
We could do it. Although we're going to suggest things like window replacement and building envelopes. We're just going to suggest you put that on we think that's important because it extends the life of your facility. Now, does this facility need to be extended? Are we going to replace it? What does the long range plan say? We're not there yet.
Yeah.
But does that make some sense? So
No, and thank you for the clarification, because I was reading that as this is where, because we kind of asked for like, what are the immediate things? And I was reading that as like, this is what we recommend you guys tackle this next summer. I'm like, there's no way that's happening.
Right, and we knew that. So what we'll do is we'll back up after this discussion, and we could condense that. What do you think that 1 or 3 or 4 items we could?
Right.
Here's what overview in this building. Here's a couple of things we recommend for extension of life or consideration.
Okay.
We know you're not probably going to replace the windows in this. Well, I don't know that. Possibly the funding is going to say, I'm going to be limited in some of the things I can do.
Yeah.
But so if it's like, let's look at the administration building, the only priority 1 I see is the chimney's got some issues with the flue.
Yeah.
That's a fix that now type thing for.
It is, because it's starting to wear, it's starting to deteriorate. Let's get that, because we do know that will eventually cause larger, more costly concerns. Does that make some sense?
Yeah.
In the mark for summer work, right? Everybody knows the importance of trying to get things done over the summer when the students are around. So we just marked them that that's a
Right.
3-month project or.
Yeah.
We can get it done before the kids get back.
Yeah, you don't want to be taking out windows during December.
We've done it before and it becomes messy.
And
Yes.
that also speaks to like, what build like this building, for example, if we had to, I'd replace windows in the winter because we're adults, we have to.
Yeah.
There aren't little kids right in this wing of the building.
Correct. Yep.
So that's another, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good question. And we'll come back and get your input and say, no, that BLRB recommendation, let's just do it what the absolute needs are. And we'll come back and we can shorten that list and meet some funding restraints too. This is just a broad over.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's, I mean, it kind of comes back to, there's always more need than there is for funding. So we'll get through this and then we'll start talking about what maybe rises to the top. This is still on the administration. So this is another way to, as I was saying earlier, that's in here as well, to slice and dice those dollars. Meaning, if it's more important to you to look at it, well, how many MEP, again, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing issues, what would that take in the high to low? Life safety, 65 to 80. So if we wanted to break it out, if you wanted to break out these numbers,
Just a different way to look at it.
it's just a different way to look at the numbers. So we're giving you options as we talk. Some people may gravitate to this list. Some people may gravitate to just the priority list. No, I want to stick with the priorities. But let's,
And then we get to the recommendations. And the recommendations are fairly simple. You're exactly right. The upgrade the heating system because the compression tank is easily fixable, and replace the boiler chimney because it's deteriorating. Those are immediate things that could be easily done with the general fund. Where we put replace exterior windows on that list because it's an extension of life of the building envelope itself. And you could pull it off in the summer if you wanted to. We're not saying that's the immediate need.
So recommendation, some work, this doesn't recommend when, it just recommends
Yes,
for summer work.
correct.
You're just recommending the time of year we do it, not that we do it immediately.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
And maybe but now we get feedback from you, we can tweak our recommendations. If you want what's immediate, I'm sharing two of them. Two small ones could be immediate. We think that could be
What
addressed.
you recommend gets done now, but yeah.
Yeah,
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, the priorities you guys, for priority one, you're saying in the next 1 to 3 years.
yeah, and then, yep. So-
So there is a time frame somewhat, right?
Yes.
In the next
Yeah.
1 to 3.
But I meant like on the list, your recommendation list, it's just, this is recommended when you could do it
Yeah.
theoretically, not the year, but just, these are summer recommendations.
Yeah,
Okay, is there a list, because that's what I was confused about, is there a list of saying recommend, like, I mean, it's on here, but it's broken down by, like, do you lump all the ones together? And all the twos
So-
together?
so that's kind of where, jumping ahead.
I didn't see that. I could have.
That's kind of what we want to do. So these are, summer work opportunities.
I got a little lost in the back pages there.
As we go through school to school to school, and we're gonna finish each school or admin building or facility, I should say, with this summer works opportunities. When we're kind of done, then we want to have a general conversation with you as to, we have some recommendations that we would see where it might be best use of your dollars and to do some summer work
Oh,
projects.
I'll add it up for the.
However, you may have a difference of opinion, and let's have that discussion. And then, of course, as always, money comes into play about what can actually be tackled. So this is the format, what you just went through with the administration building is the format that we're going to follow with every facility now. So before I move on to our next, do we want to continue, we want to have a little more conversation about the admin?
For admin, I'm curious about the fire system. This feels weird to me saying it because fire. Fire is an imminent threat, obviously, or it is a possible threat, but how, like the $65,000 to $80,000, is it like, I struggle with the phrase, I guess I'm saying like a nice to have, or is it like, this is something that is almost required by code?
no, I wouldn't say it's required because you have a fire alarm system. That's what you, the fire department would be notified. You're not in danger. They would come up, they don't know exactly where it started or what have you. They would just come in and enter. They'd have a different fire safety plan as they come and enter this. But well, you do have fire sprinklers,
Yeah,
you know,
your windows are numbered.
you have this
so they know.
detection system, you know, so you would be, hey, you'd hear it, you'd evacuate and come in. There could be more damage to the facility itself physically, just because they're looking at where that fire started.
Yes.
Gotcha. So
Does that make some sense?
yeah, so if the alarm would be pulled, they'd be notified that the admin
Yeah.
building room 200 is on fire, and
Yeah.
they come here knowing that.
So and that's the difference is what that, because I deal with them all the time.
Mhm.
So like this building, it doesn't tell us where.
It doesn't tell you room
So,
200.
Yeah.
Mountain Way is the same way.
Right.
It doesn't, so when they come in, I have to go in with them because they go to the panel and it's like, where is this?
Gotcha.
So if I'm not here, now they gotta scope the whole building to
Yeah.
find where the fire is instead of going to the panel, says, you know, northwest building room, what, blah, blah, blah. So that's where that's coming in
Yeah.
at, that it kind of helps the fire department or the police officer, whoever comes in. It's kind of like a, you know, it's a nice thing to have, but you don't really need it. But for the firefighters, it's a great thing to have because they can go straight to where it's at instead of damaging, oh, I'm gonna bust down this door and this door and this door. They go straight to where it's at.
Okay,
So I just have a couple questions before we move on.
yes, please.
Maybe you have this somewhere else in the packet. So I'm looking at this one that says roof outside air inlet screens are clogged with dirt, restricting airflow. So is there like a list, or Dion, maybe you're the person to answer this. Is there a list of things our maintenance team could handle versus things you
Yes.
need to call in? Is that list somewhere in this packet?
No, I didn't see it. So when I walked around with them a few months ago, they created basically this list, but the list that they gave me were things that we could do in-house. So we've been chopping down the list. I think it was like 100 and something items or something.
Yeah, that
like that.
initial list that we,
Yeah.
yeah. we-
And then I sat down with Dr. Middleton and Marshall, and we narrowed it down to like 75, I think, that were priority. So like the handrail, we just got fixed by the welder. So we're just chopping that list down, you know, as we go along, depending on like price. Because some of the stuff is, you know, it's expensive, so,
Right.
but we do have a short like maintenance list that they created for us to do.
And is that list something that like the board needs to get some funding for? Or is it
I don't
like-
think so.
Or is it like $50 things, like put in?
It's
some-
not $50 things.
No, I think it's stuff that we should handle within our
Right.
general maintenance budget.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we've been using.
So
for
none
that.
of your short list needs,
We took it out per the direction, because we can take care of this.
Right.
This has a little bit more. You mentioned item number 3, the administrative gymnasium. It's the second sentence is what you're
right,
looking
right.
for.
Well, if something is dirty, I don't know if that means like you need a specialty person. to
No.
come in with a special
Correct.
vacuum,
Right.
or like, can anybody with a vacuum clean it
So,
out? I don't know.
so is there a reason this one didn't get moved to that maintenance thing? I think it's the amount of
What page is
diffusers.
that on?
But I was like, do
Yeah, it's
these numbers assume a contractor can be doing it or in-house?
It ranges for a contractor.
Okay.
If you do this in-house, I don't have the specific how much you,
Because we have a lift and we can buy diffusers and we could install them ourselves theoretically.
possibly, yeah,
And it would cost us a chunk of money, but maybe not $24,000.
possibly.
And that's where we would come back to Marshall and Dion and say, is this something
That you'd want to
you
do,
want to
could
do
do.
or have the capacity to do? Some of it might have,
Those things
you
that
know,
are
specialty components of welding that maybe
We got a
maybe
lift.
you are, maybe you're not.
Buy them,
able to
install
do. I know, working in Squim, they had an expert woodworker that would do any trim or casework. And then when he left, it all of a sudden becomes an outside hiring service. You go to a contractor for. So some of it also is time dependent, right? Yeah, we can do it, but is it, are you already, have the day-to-day job? And is it above and beyond, or is it just meant for summer work? So I know that's kind of a non-answer. It's kind of all over the place, but
No,
Yeah,
I
it's
just-
not busy. We're
Well, I
talking
mean,
about-
for instance, like, obviously the word asbestos, right? That
Right.
needs to be a special guy with a
Yeah,
special
yeah.
vacuum. But this thing on the roof, do I need a special guy with a special
No.
vacuum, or is it just guy with a vacuum? to
Right.
clean it out?
Right.
I don't know.
It's a number 2, so it's, you take, 2 to 5 years.
He's got 5 years to clean the air vents.
Yeah.
Could he get on that immediately, please?
So.
Why are you in the room still go?
One other like total rookie question. What does VCT stand for?
Vinyl composition tile.
It's the tile.
It's the little squares that you see on, yeah.
I just didn't know.
And I apologize, I should have said that before. When you run across an acronym, we get it, we throw them around daily. And so I apologize. Don't, it's okay if you raise your hand and say, what the heck are you talking about? I always say glazing instead of glass, and even that confused. Are you talking about glass? Yes, for some people. So, yeah, my apologies. Don't, it's quite all right to raise your hand.
Okay, that's fine. I just thought it, well, I had your attention.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
absolutely.
Other questions on admin? We'll move to the next ones as we move through. This one took the longest because we're explaining all the categories and the components. And I mean, you can take as long as you want. It is really important to emphasize, we've categorized them in 3 ways. We can come back and we should, this is a discussion, remember, categorize them and tighten them down in different ways. Prioritization really is that timeline. Well, you said, well, what should we be doing? Well, priority 1 probably should be some of the ones you addressed.
Okay,
Categories just gives you a different way to look at it. Yes.
so one last question.
Yep.
The 1938 electrical panels, wasn't it knob and tube back then?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so.
And what happens is we start to, and Dion, you can speak to this, we just can't, it's difficult to find parts.
Yes.
I mean, you know, I mean,
Sorry, Tim.
yeah.
We have knob and tube.
We do,
panels?
yes, we do.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that is, guys, that's not unusual going into so many school districts of this age.
I have a knob and tube panel in my house.
do you really?
It's not active, but it's there. It's got the little glass fuse in it and everything.
Wow.
But they just left it on the wall. I have.
And your insulation is newspapers.
Those are the ones.
Every Sunday.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
I spray, it's fine.
Okay, so Crossroads, as I think we all know
Let's
here,
hear this one.
being that it's attached to the admin, it really has a lot of similarities to this facility. So you're gonna see a lot of repetition in comments. But slightly lower, 71. I think the admin part of it scored a 73. Again, fixed furnishings, like I said, VCT flooring, there's some cracking and problems or issues with some of it. Exterior windows, there we go again. Classroom, water intrusion in certain locations. Again, that's this assumption here. Don't know if that's caused by the roof necessarily, or maybe a faulty plumbing, joint thing. Consider roof replacement. Starting to get a little bit older, water intrusion causing damage. That's the assumption. Structurally, showing a little bit of signs of wear, but it's still in good shape, and general maintenance needed, but nothing extraordinary there. Electrical, once again, the LED lighting, there's money, there's savings there, maybe in ESCO. You'd probably do this as one full facility, I would imagine, if you did any of that: windows, lighting, mechanical systems. Intercom system needs to be upgraded. Mechanical, fixed water leak within the HVAC, mechanical basement. That's, has everybody been down to the basement?
Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
haven't.
Oh, really? It's fun.
And Dion's told me
Should have
that.
done
That was
that.
your biology room, right? Or chemistry room?
Science.
Science, yeah.
Nighttime's the best time to go down there.
There's like this dungeon room with these washing machines that are like.
There's some non-compliant, in again, today's world, non-compliancy when it comes to ADA, kitchen dishwasher doesn't have a backflow preventer on it. So you're gonna see that, some of you know, some of you don't know, but you're gonna see that comment a few times on the list. Backflow preventer means when you're running water through your water, hot water, cold water, if you mix it with any kind of detergents, there is a possibility, albeit slim, because we've all lived with this for all our lives, that that water could go back within the circulation system of the cold or the hot water, and thus pollute water downstream to, say, a sink or something. It's very rare. But backflow preventers in this day and age are required on any kind of thing that goes to your custodial closets.
You say required, retroactively required or going?
No, no.
Okay.
Going forward.
Going forward. So that's what a backflow preventer does. It just stops any kind of water that comes out of the system from getting back into the system and potentially polluting it. Priorities, again, 270,000, in priority 1 to 356,000. I think you all have this in there, so this should look pretty familiar, at least the numbers, kind of 1 million to 1.4 million priority 2, 1 million to 1.6 million priority 3, for a total down below of 2.8 to 4.5, and then total priorities list.
What's the reason why for the admin building, the fire system is?
You stole my question.
Is a number 2, but for this, it's a number 1.
That's a.
The reason we talked about it when we talked to our engineer, Bob, I thought, and we can clarify that, is because it is not, that particular fire alarm system is separate and not talking to this building.
Yeah, the system should be upgraded to addressable.
But I do wonder why our engineer put that as a one.
I just didn't know if it was because it's a,
No.
student aspect of the facility.
No, my guess is that might be a slight typo.
Okay.
That's
Should it be a 1 or a 2?
Yeah,
Probably.
Because when the fire alarms go off, they go off in the entire
do
building.
they? Okay,
Yeah, it's one.
we'll check that.
It's
Maybe it
one
is just a
unit.
typo. Good.
The panel's over on the Crossroads side, so admin doesn't have its own individual
Yeah.
panel.
Yeah.
So that's probably why he did that.
So is it question time for Crossroads here?
Yes.
Let's see, well, one more. So here's the MEPs breakdown versus categories. And then here's the summer.
Summer opportunities.
Kind of the last slide. So, talk about that, but yeah, now's a good time to
A
start.
couple questions.
Uh-huh.
So the window cost,
Uh-huh.
you have it separated by building?
No, that is a duplicate, and I don't know that, I think.
Okay.
So, meaning for the entire building, I would assume, we assume that if you were gonna do the windows,
Crossroads
you would
and
do
the
the entire building versus.
So this isn't like half the cost on this, half the cost,
Yes.
it was just, it's on here twice.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can clean that up. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
like, is it this plus this, or is this just
Hey, it looks like it's $9 million to replace windows.
pretty nice windows?
So 2 million, but yeah.
Yeah,
so it's
2 million,
actually-
yeah.
Actually 1 million, which
Yeah.
is.
That, because I'm looking, I'm like, boy, how much? Because I'm like, why would we replace here, not there?
Yeah, no, you're right.
So are there more duplicates on here?
No, well, no, for this
No,
building,
probably.
Paint and trim.
it's again divided. So like VCT, paint and trim,
Is
That is the
windows, it's all, yes. So the number is for the building. If I make,
sorry.
no, but it's good to understand it. So.
Yeah, trying to see if it's, $1.4 million.
Yeah.
Paint.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
building.
entire building.
The-
Yes, so I'm sorry, that is one cost that is shown twice.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
Others, he's asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there more than just paint and windows,
Yes.
like roof?
I believe the roof actually would be just the Crossroads though, because I do believe when we walked it, it was in worse condition.
Yeah, specifically.
And over the admin room.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, because I don't see, do I see roof on the admin?
No.
No, we didn't put a roof cost because it's not in that poor condition. The Crossroad was deteriorating.
So it, I mean, not that it matters a whole lot, but it'll be a couple million.
Look at this. We just saved $2.4 million.
I did my part, Carl.
Yeah.
Walk off.
If we could continue to save dollars like that, that'd be great.
Man,
Yeah.
you're gonna owe us money at the end.
Exactly. So I'm noting that to make sure, because see if we'll come back and we'll update any of that, because that is a good point. I don't see any, but we'll verify.
Yeah, and this is, I believe, the only facility that kind of had that,
Yeah.
exterior is kind of one exterior.
Well, so that goes to my next question. It says here, intercom. Does the intercom go off on this side of the building when they talk over there? Or is it separate?
We have separate
That
codes,
is- yeah.
so it can.
Okay, but so the upgrade cost for intercom at Crossroads, would that affect here?
It would probably.
And would it be less if we did it not affect here? So it says intercom upgrade 93 to 115,000. Would that be less if we didn't have it affect this half of the building, or is that just the cost?
Let me see.
It's on
This is across.
page 3 on crosswords, item 5.
Marshall.
I'm gonna need you to buy some Alexas on Black Friday.
System needs upgrading.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to the question I'm asking?
Yes. Is it for the full building?
Or is it?
I would imagine if it's a separate cost, then it is a separate cost, or meaning,
Will be like.
Well, it's not identified in the
On
administration.
Prime Day.
oh,
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Is that cost
okay,
just
no,
for
then
that
that
half?
has to be for the entire building.
Yeah, that's.
And could we save money by not even bothering with the admin side of the building?
The wiring for the intercom system is all in one.
It's all in one.
So
right?
Right.
that's what I'm just curious.
And that's where they saw it, that's right, and that's where they identified.
Okay.
So that would affect the whole building.
Yeah.
So that would be for the admin and.
Let's put it on the twice so we can take it off once and do it
Yeah.
ourselves.
It's not.
That's not.
If we do, we can feel good about taking it off.
It's kind of a weird piece when
This is the only building.
we should have really just said admin crossword high school. We should have combined them because it's hard to pull them off. So good clarification, but that is for the full building.
Okay, all right.
But it does make some sense because when it does come to the way that state sees it, they would see this as different square footage entirely.
They would, because the Crossroad High School is educational, this is administration. That's why it's split up in ICOs.
Wait, I found one more. What about the flooring?
That's for the entire, so that is a duplicate. That's for
Duplicate,
the
okay.
entire building.
Because Crossroads says all flooring and the admin just says flooring. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Duplicate, so we can,
Look, this is the only building they share. So yeah.
good catches though. Those are good for clarification for sure. Okay.
I have questions when we get to the high school.
Okay.
If we get to the high school.
Skipping it.
Yeah, we will get there. Any other questions on Crossroads High School?
Did you guys do anything about the portables or we just skip the portables?
No, that comes under the.
Educational adequacy and capacity.
Okay.
We'll come back. We're gonna start talking about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Granite Falls High School, 2008, 85. So good score.
Somebody wants on there.
I have.
Things, the bird intrusion. That's just one of those things that, is, I think we all know this to deal with. It wouldn't be a high cost. I think
Bird spikes down.
a little difficult
That's
to
right.
get to. Windowsills.
To the next.
So some of the windowsills could use some macro rods and new sealant, roof leaks under the photovoltaics, which is over the library. Looks like when they installed those panels, they may have kind of inadvertently gone through your roofing system, maybe not sealed correctly. Maybe it's tough to track a roof leak and know exactly where it's coming from. Concrete paving, there's just a little bit outside that probably could have some cracks and maybe some roof lifting, so tripping hazards. Structural, it's fine, right, as you would expect in a 2008 building. Electrical devices in the shop area do not meet current code.
This is where I have a question to
Yeah.
ask on that.
Yeah,
So we put this in and it was a wood shop and we put a lot of stuff in there. And then we had a teacher for a minute who decided to do the acetylene torch welding in there next to the dust collection system. He doesn't work here anymore. So, and we have the CTE director and Karen are working on some plans for what's going to happen in there. So are you saying that the electrical doesn't work or isn't up to code based on what he's been doing in there, or it's not up to code at all? Like when
it's exactly. It's not up to code based on what the new program seems to have been. It doesn't seem to like, it seems like things like the welding was brought in after the fact is what we can,
Yeah.
and so
So
there.
if we remove the welding piece.
Yes.
then
Yes.
we can buy it.
We just don't want to ignite your wood chips. That's all we don't want to do.
Yeah, the biggest thing is not even the wood chips, but fine dust, right?
Yeah,
We just know that how fine dust and of course wood dust can, so there's some those, the high school, we're gonna talk about the high school because it probably, of all the needs we have, it's kind of counterintuitive because it's your most current building, but because it's your most recent investment, there are some things that can be done to your high school that protect that investment, that being a big part of it.
So I think the direction has been to maybe move away from
The welding.
that. So if we moved away from welding, then our electrical is compliant, and look at that, we saved another 200.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, literally just by not welding by your wood dust.
I know, when I found out about that, well,
What a strange
also,
concept.
I heard there's a teacher that mentioned a concern that there's not adequate ventilation for the type of welding
Yes.
that he was doing.
And we do note that too. Yeah.
He's not there anymore, so
And we love that program. If you're gonna combine the programs, there's probably things we should do for safety.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, so
Then does that also negate
That's the
the
next
second
one
one
down.
as well?
that was
So
that was my follow-up. So the electrical
Wow.
devices, so 1 and 2, look at that, that's.
Yeah, 1 and 2 go hand in hand. That's correct. You're looking at it correctly. Yep.
We're earning our keep at this end of the
I
table.
like it. Oh, wow. Competition, throw the gal.
I think we're on the same team. We're gonna be competition. Competition is this.
Okay, yeah.
No, but I just,
Sorry.
I think.
So,
$75,000.
yeah, a few other things on the list, theater lighting, right? You have some that,
How many for all five?
it's halide, so it buzzes, it's a little loud.
I fixed it already.
So, did you?
I fixed it already.
Which one was that?
The theater lights on the stage.
That was actually a pretty substantial project, so
It
that,
was, it took a long
that
time.
might take a lot of our summer project money.
Oh, wow.
But that's $250,000,
right? Right.
See, look at us
You
go.
have to plug something.
Well, that's.
No, we had to rebuild the entire,
Oh, it really
it
was.
was all,
I
yeah.
thought you were
the valves.
joking, like the plug was halfway out. You
No,
just had to push it all the
no.
way
But you already
in.
fixed it?
Mhm.
All right.
I'm so just curious, how much did that cost, you think?
40?
Yeah, it was 40 something.
40?
So we spent 40 to save 250. I like it.
Well, so.
But I mean, we're talking about how we can use our existing funds. We don't have a whole lot of chunks of $40,000 on projects. So that was a priority because
Yeah.
It was.
it's a space that students use. We do plays in there. It was very loud and you really couldn't use the space. So we made it a priority. We decided to just push it up the list and do it.
Yeah.
But again, that limits what else we can do. Because we really don't have that much discretionary money.
So Granite Falls High School recommendations, shop classroom, there you go, metalworking, welding, prevent ignition of wood dust, shop classroom, electrical devices, upgrade to meet current NEC, but that's, again, I think if you take out the welding programs, you're gonna be in good
You're gonna
shape.
be, yeah.
Repair and replace concrete pavement, repair flashing a roof. For the bird intrusion, there's some things you can do. Like I say, not easy to get at because you can't really just get a lift to that space. Repair, replace damaged sliding, trim, repaint exterior. Let's see, install check valves, cold water line, custodial sinks. Again, this is kind of that back. Hot, cold water come together, they mix, they go down to detergents, they go and, go to a mop sink and mix that way. It's that kind of backflow where actually the cold water can come down and go into the hot, or the hot water can actually go free flow right into the cold. It's just something that it's not a big deal. Again, I don't see any probable issues with it. It's just something that if you can correct it, I think it's a kind of a low cost.
So I noticed at the high school, the damaged siding looks like kids have just grabbed the paint and started walking down the sidewalk and
Yeah.
long strips of it off.
So that's kind of to the
You
next
flipped it,
question. Is it on there?
I think-
There we go. So recommendations for summer work, the sawdust, we talked about that, so that's already on the right track. Upgrade electrical devices, we think we're gonna be okay there. Repair, replace concrete pavement.
I had a question about the pavement real quick.
Yeah.
Where's it at?
It's in the courtyard over by the heel part, by the stadium.
Yeah.
They have the mound. There's tree roots or,
Yeah,
and there's tripping hazards.
So is that 30,000 to tear it out and redo it or to shave it down to make it level?
Tear it out and redo it
But
by
Dig out the Tree
contractor.
roots.
we
and make
could
it-
just
Yeah.
shave down the concrete.
Or put in
Yeah,
an
yeah.
epoxy that lasts maybe a couple summers, winters.
Yeah,
and then
And there's
starts to
cheaper
polish.
option, because that's a number one for safety.
Right.
I'm saying for safety, we gotta spend the money, but 30,000, we can do it for, 1,000. Just ground down the
You
concrete.
can do it for a couple hundred from Home Depot and
Yeah.
tubes of epoxy.
But it doesn't solve your challenge, right? That'll continue to be something.
Yeah, that'll, we can push that off for
Yep.
years.
Yep.
We can do that a couple of times.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
can do it a couple times. It's just one of those things that kind of rises because obviously lawsuits are lawsuits and it's the money versus the payoff. It's
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's a way to actually make it safe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And a lot of.
And if that's
I say
something
like,
you want us to investigate further, we call these rough order of magnitude
Yeah.
costs, just for you guys to get a, hey, what,
That's
but
what we're
my guess is, is there a different way? Is there another
Well, I've
approach?
seen on sidewalks, they got big bumps, the city comes down and just shaves it off so it's level.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, if it's a not super visible spot, we can do that, and then later on down the road, we can replace it when it pops up again.
Continues to move and all that.
Yeah,
All right, I promise
I'll make you
the last-
happy too. The top one, we replaced dust collector, it was only 35,000.
Right, well, this one is the one too, the ventilation and the welding, and we already said the welding.
Yeah.
So
The
we shut down
program.
dust collector.
The first two are gone.
Yeah.
really.
and they should have, in theory, if you're gonna keep the program, so it's separated.
But here you replaced it and then.
But did we? Are we?
Yes, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Because of the,
oh, it just didn't work.
oh,
Yeah.
it didn't work.
Because the way, what he was using it for, the dust collector would get moisture in, so it would just feel like clay. So it wouldn't,
No,
so it stopped working, yeah. So him using the torch and with the sawdust, of course, it's gonna catch fire because nothing's sucking the sawdust out of the thing.
So because no one maintained the actual collector.
Collector,
That's-
right,
Mike cleans out his dust collector,
right,
Yeah.
no one did it at school.
right.
Well, and it's,
So we save money by replacing the dust collector, and we also put in a fire suppression system that was not included in the prior dust collector. So it's like an alarm on the, so if it detects smoke or fire, it'll shut down the collector and shut all the exhaust fans off. So we've also added that, which was included in that too.
To answer your question back on the paint, what is this?
Yeah.
This was done in 2008.
Yeah.
My guess is you haven't done, many school districts just can't afford to continually keep up on paint. It's the hardy siding.
Right.
It needs its time, right? It's time to reseal, repaint, and protect your asset.
And that's why.
That's why it's such a large number to do the entire thing.
If you repaint trim, right, it's not only the paint, but Hardy's
Caulking.
caulks every seam. So if you have to scrape that out and do it, that number might be high. I don't know exactly if that's, probably more towards the low end, but you also have all the seaming that needs to go around windows.
I was gonna ask that, why is the seam to one and the painting a two?
Well, because the seaming actually is a larger gap that allows more water and.
To start to-
behind.
Yeah, I understand, so, I mean, but you want us to do one with the other, but they're separate.
They really should, I've seen that now. I really would recommend, step in front of the camera, that those two really be combined as one item, because you're really gonna do them, you really should do them as one item. It really,
But you could separate it. If you don't have $1.2 million, I'd rather stop that water intrusion too.
yeah.
I mean,
but
that's how
also
you want to think about it.
vacuum
Is that, okay, if that's why, yeah.
is, really should be higher than that. I'm thinking I'm looking at these two numbers and thinking that maybe Kathleen did a wrongful duplication.
Nope, that's what it says on the
Is
shot,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's about right, because I got somebody to come out and give me an estimate, and that's pretty close what he
Is it?
said.
Okay.
Mhm, yeah.
Which one, the 10 or the 20?
all right, so that
The
last
1
question I
million.
said I was gonna
It's
ask.
just a painting. It's just a big project, right?
Yeah,
I remember I said it was my last question, but I didn't say what the question was. So
Okay.
here it is. The thing I've been waiting a couple years on what is it gonna take there's no numbers here for the lighting outside, like, is it,
I already did it. It's all LED.
so now the lights can turn on at night?
They are on right
During the
now.
day?
Oh, so I'm fixing that. So that's an internal. with the company Watt Stopper. So I called them last week to get somebody up here from Texas to train us on how, so no one knows how to use the system
Right.
correctly. So we've all got new, we're all new here. So they're going to come up and train us how to do and train us on how to use the internal system of Watt Stopper because it's all on the computer. So Patty will set a schedule and it goes on or goes off, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, like Robert
So
used
it
the
doesn't
stadium.
need to be repaired, like it's.
It probably does, because it's probably an aging system that they probably have upgrades, and it's now, like you said, things don't communicate anymore. So it was put in 2008, so now,
Okay, all right.
but it probably does.
I'm gonna hold to my, well, there's no cost on here, so
Right, 'cause
apparently
it's
that's free.
unknown.
Because it's an
It's
unknown.
free. Dion's
Right.
taking care of it.
Yeah, okay.
After hours, after hours.
But with that, I just wanted, is that something that needs to get on the list or no? That was, the district's taking care of that currently.
Depending on cost.
TBD.
So if it, yeah, to be determined, because if it's, the scope is too large, then I'll talk with Marshall and then we'll determine if it needs to be put on that list. Because if it's, $1 million, we can't do that. But if it's $10,000 to come in and fix it, then we'll do that.
Yeah.
So. But that's why the lights are wonky like that. It's a weird system.
Well, it just got messed up.
Yeah.
Coding.
And we just had the power outage and it did some wonky stuff again. So like half the high school was on and the other half wasn't. So it's weird.
All right, I have no other questions about the high school.
So again, we're gonna go through everything, but really, like I said, it's kind of counterintuitive, but probably throwing money at the high school might be the best use of some of your dollars just to protect that investment. We're gonna do a facilities, educational adequacy. We're gonna come back with more information that talks about the future of the buildings and kind of help to inform that. But those are some things that, water intrusion can do a lot of damage quickly. So it's, 2008 high school, you want to take care of that.
Really quick, Marshall, what we do when the bond lapses and we're gonna be standing at the street corners asking for more money or a continuance of money. How much can we ask for?
To keep it flat, it'd probably be in the $25 million range.
And then what if we don't keep it flat? Like, is there any limit?
We can ask for a lot of money, more than our voters would have the stomach to.
Well, I'm asking because granted is changing actually relatively quickly from what I see. The community page since I have been here has grown almost double.
A lot of
So,
different people.
so more people are coming in. So my hope is that by the time that we get around 2 years from now, or a year and a half from now, whenever that's gonna be, and that's on the ballot, that it might still pass with slim margins, but it could pass.
So there's a bonding capacity
Yeah.
goal, and it's a percentage of your total assessed value of your.
5% of your total assessed value.
Yeah, and so I can't remember what our assessed value is, but I mean, that number is in the greater than $100 million
Okay.
is what we could technically request a bond for.
For those at home, we're not asking for $100 million.
Yeah. Clarification.
We're not, but like, I look at it once again as, it's a facility that is, whatever your taxes are, $1,100 a year, $2,000 a year, that you can send an unlimited amount of children to, for childcare for 10 months out of the year, and they come back and they learn to read and do math, and it's a great investment. My pitch. So once again, yeah, not to say that it's going to be $100 million ask or anything like that, but I'm just curious as to the opportunity, because there's a lot of things on the list here, and these are like, it's nothing new, right? This is
Taking care of current.
right. This is making sure that our house is in order and that it's
Yeah, we're not
clean.
expanding capacity, expanding programs. We're not able to house more students.
Exactly.
It's just-
Right, because like I sit here and I think of the opportunity of, Crossroads has grown so greatly, over the past several years. the possibility of this whole building being for Crossroads and admin having either being a part of an existing building or building their own or something that's, smaller. So that's just something to keep in mind as we are, I'm sure we'll have these discussions as we go down, but that's just more of like I said, my mind is always thinking 10, 15, 20 years down the road, not just, over the next couple of years, we'll be able to tackle some of this with our capital funds and we'll hope that the bond will renew. If we have the opportunity to more than renew, I would greatly appreciate that as a tax-paying citizen that my children go to the school, so.
And I would say it's almost impossible for us to tackle anything but about $200,000 a year of stuff based on our capital levy.
Yep.
But I guess, just my 2 cents, I would caution the board with going too far down the bond discussion at this point. We should, one of the great parts about having VLRB here is that there's a lot of things going into this discussion outside of the costs and what needs to be fixed. It's the long-term educational adequacy, and maybe that's where we end up. But I think that we should set our car down a path of not necessarily needing that, because in A, we may not get it, or B, we may not need it. B seems potentially unlikely, but let's set a destination of trying to do as much as we can with the priorities, with the educational adequacy, with the enrollment data that we have, to try our hardest to figure out a way that we don't necessarily need that bond. Because I promise you, if we set that path now and we say that's where we're going, and it doesn't happen or it doesn't get approved or whatever, we're going to be in a tough situation. So let's try to figure out how we can do some of this stuff without needing to.
Right. Frugality along, as the plan being forth, but, I've always been of the mindset too, that we have to set a goal and then work backwards from it. And the goal, I just want to make sure that we're at least shooting for the goal, right? You shoot for the moon and you end up in the stars, all that good saying and everything. But it's like, if we set the goal of being able to improve the districts, and what does that look like? And if we don't get to that point, we don't get to that point. It's not saying that we allocate funds prematurely or anything. It's just making sure that, hey, we have high aspirations, to be able to improve the district. And in painting that vision for the community as well, right? And to be able to say like, hey, this is where we could go. And this is where we would like to paint that picture. This is what it would require. And right, both of those speak as they may.
I guess that's my point. The goal is no bond. Give the money back to the community. That's our goal. A lot of things can happen between here and there. Additional revenue from the state. Who knows what happens? So that would be my goal. Is to give the money back to taxpayers.
And I think, to me, the most, exciting, refreshing thing that I've been hoping for since I've been here is through this process is that we are gonna involve community voices and allow the community to tell us what they would like, what they would like their community school district to look like in 5 years, 10 years. And we come back using the knowledge from BLRB to, what's this going to cost to get to your vision? And then how do we prioritize your vision versus the cost? And, hopefully it's a groundswell of excitement and enthusiasm about our district and where it could be. But we've struggled, since I've been here, we struggled to get participation in the community and things like this. And I think that this is a great opportunity to get hopefully tremendous community participation.
Yeah. We digress.
Okay. Yeah, but it's good conversation.
No, it's a great conversation.
Back to the stadium. Yeah, perfect.
Love this picture. I don't know who looks more confused, Dion or myself.
I think the wind was blowing in my face.
All right, so perfect score. So I said you drive it off the lot, and I guess it's still maintaining. There is one, I believe we have one item Oh.
Or two.
Let me
Fell
guess, the
asleep.
bathroom.
Okay, there we go.
Oh.
Okay, I guess it gets me up.
There's just some water intrusion in your electrical room that comes in through under the door.
That sounds really
Just
bad.
some water.
Yeah. Water, electrical, is that what you're
Well,
saying?
You just have some water in
Yeah,
it.
there's a drain in there. It's not as bad as maybe that sounds. It's not like the rain is just blowing in over your electrical panels. It's not getting onto your electrical panels at all. They're up off the
Oh,
floor.
it says that there's rust.
That's in the restroom.
That's just.
Oh, because I read that the same way too. That's what.
Okay, yeah, because it says there's water penetrating into the electrical rooms and a couple of panels are showing rust.
Those are two separate items, though.
What's this?
But it says it right here.
It's just moisture.
It's the moisture that's
Right.
starting to rust the panels.
So you just get moisture in this room because it's non-insulated. It's under your stadium. So the CMUs, you can see, holds moisture. It's just moisture in the air that will cause corrosion.
All right, so it really is supposed to be a 5 then.
Well, one is the worst. So,
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it
It's something you should be aware of in the next 5 to 10 years.
All right,
Yeah.
let it get rusty for 10 years.
Yeah, and then replace it.
All right.
Perfect. Got it.
Yeah, this thing's lasted. I think 30 days.
Exactly.
You got knob and two.
Exactly.
So once again,
I got water intrusion. Rusty.
So this is interesting. It has this has the same backflow issue.
And it's brand new.
Yeah.
Though. When did
You have
that valve thing
Yeah.
happen? Because this was made not that long
in
ago.
2008, yeah, it's just something that's recently come up in the code that. And it's something that inspectors and people don't see when the plumbers put it together. So it's a non-intentional item, but it is something that our mechanical noticed, a plumber basically are looking at.
But it literally says one of the solutions is training.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know, you
put
guys.
that on your list.
Training.
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, here's how you use a sink.
Well, it really is, the real danger again is not so much the hot going into the cold or the cold going into the hot.
It's any chemicals.
It's the chemicals. that-
TikTok video, Dion.
I did the interview with him. He would love it.
I'll blast it out. That'd be hilarious.
Like $700, but hey, you know what? That's over a lot of buildings.
Granite Falls Middle School, moving on, 73.5.
We didn't talk about that.
That on the ICO scale. Primary deficiencies, again, there's that's VWC, that's vinyl wall covering, so sometimes the walls have a coating on it, so you can pin stuff up. There's some of that's coming off. That's actually in the portables though, so we're gonna do another analysis when it comes to educational facilities to talk about, how we may get students out of portables and into the schools or additions and modernizations, or maybe they stay in portables, but falling stucco that is fallen off. It's not like it just keeps falling off, but I think most of you are aware of the cracking stucco. Again, more than likely, that's due to water intrusion. So you get windblown rain, it goes up into the parapets under the coping and it seeps down to the backing of the stucco, and then it freeze thaws, and starts popping stucco. So.
There's also a reason we don't usually see stucco in the Northwest.
Yeah.
Crazy. I used to be a roofer, so I see stuff and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know where you live. Just check it.
Exactly.
Would, to that point, this may be a foolish question, but replacing the stucco with a more Northwest
Siding.
friendly.
We could simply be siding, something like,
Was there a cost, like which costs more, repairing the stucco or just?
we haven't done that analysis.
Okay.
We just haven't done that
The
analysis.
stucco I will apologize, it's just,
Just another.
it would really need to be pulled off in all the locations and really to see if there's dry rot behind it.
See, we haven't done we don't know yet.
There would have, there'd probably be.
I just think it's covering it. Yeah, check for dry rot.
There's dry rot.
There has to be. Just watch
But
it. We don't-
we're thinking it's not gonna be great because it is penetrating that stucco, what we're concerned about, and it's getting behind into that wood.
And it's primarily on the south side where most buildings take their worst beating because of it's a direct sun, and, wind and wind-blown rain, so.
This one would definitely need a lot more investigation to really understand the scope. How bad is it? Where should we do it? Should we just do, this assumes maybe a whole building is the worst on that south side. I mean, there's a lot we could do with this,
Yeah, well, my thought is why replace with something that will fail again?
Right.
Stucco fails.
Remove it, replace it with a rain screen system, a hardy plank system or something.
Right.
Whenever we were building, because the roof company I worked for, they built like malls and banks and stuff, and they're like, stucco, why?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, then there's the knockoff of stucco that became popular, EFS.
Which is horrible, yeah.
Which has turned out to not come good in the Northwest as well. So you have some masonry finishes, there's some moss, but nothing too bad. Peeling paint, numerous locations on the masonry. Original 1974 electrical panels probably need replacement. Consider upgrading fluorescent lighting LEDs. There you go. Non-addressable fire. Getting all used to these phrases. Mechanical, multiple broken fixtures. There's just some, I think, toilet fixtures that are within that building, if I remember right, Dion, but maybe that's. Okay.
There's some like toilet fixtures. What did you just say?
Just no wooden fixtures within there that are kind of chipped or broken.
Oh, I got you.
The other one.
It's just damaged.
I had a question about the shower stalls.
Yeah.
When's the last time anyone used those showers?
1974.
Just check.
That's not true.
But seriously.
I forget who I was talking to yesterday, but I was just like, I was talking with Bridget yesterday. And I was just like, I think school showers are now like the cleanest
Oh, right.
thing. And because I can't think of, like, my son never takes a shower after.
Yeah.
No one does.
After it came out, no kid wanted to take a shower, okay?
Individual stalls or shower curtains for privacy, but everybody's concerned for multiple reasons, namely cameras and stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But they are a health requirement, so they still oftentimes pop up in every school that you build, so you can't not have them, but you can do it in such a way that it's not so.
I'm not really worried about fixing, like what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's not a priority to you.
I'm surprised, honestly, that I don't see a bunch of things stored right there, because normally that's what showers are
That's
used.
because I did it before you got there.
Oh, yeah.
So a question, I thought I knew this, but Tia's got the question. That picture up top is just a wall, just at a bad angle.
What is that?
Yeah.
It's just
That's
stucco in the middle.
It's just
weird, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, in your professional
artistic.
Dutch angle.
In your professional opinion, is that stucco wall right there our most egregious, most like worst thing we have?
So
It's up there.
It's up there.
Because it's a building envelope.
it's a
You're
building
damaging your
envelope,
building.
which is bad. And then there's probably a few areas where you may have it over a pedestrian walkway where the chances are not, I mean, the odds are high that it would fall or anything would crack at the same time, but that would be the other concern, is that when you have anything drop off at a time that a student or parent or administrator walking in and out of the building, that can be corrected and protected. However, it just speaks to a larger problem.
Oh, yeah, it does.
And the larger problem is the envelope and how extensive does it go?
And we've done no destructive testing on this. This is just observable conditions. So we don't really have a good sense. We put a big number into it, but as you mentioned, replacing the stucco and putting something else on, or what do we do? And what do we find behind it? We just don't have a good sense of it. So.
And I think the most important part to talk about is that's not something that can be done in the summer.
No, well, not extensively, no.
You could do a section of it,
I
yeah.
was gonna say.
Not on our budget.
Right.
The section
Right.
so that we're not getting more water in there.
The other thing that is, I'm not 100% sure about is based on the ages of the modernization in 2019 and the addition in 2001 is when was the stucco put in at 2001? And I only bring that question up because sometimes it can be controversial, right? We just modernized this building. You just did that, and now you're ripping off all the stucco to replace it with a different rain screen. So
Well,
there might be a public perception of. So.
the new building, the modernization doesn't have stucco.
No.
No, the
Yeah,
steam
so
was
that's-
done in two
That's what I
thousand
thought.
19.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
And
makes
it's just
more
limited to that, not to that.
Yeah, the
Right.
modernization of the steam building was 2000. So my guess is there wouldn't be that, one of my concerns.
That part there, Rick. Hold
Oh.
on, we have to ask the experts.
What's that?
In which part was in 2001? We go back to the picture. Is the tan part 2001?
And the
One
green
more, one
part.
more.
And the green, that painting was
Yeah, all of
2001.
that, all the way
This is
around,
all stucco.
Yeah.
Stucco. I did
2001.
not do that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it was 21 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did have a quick question, if I could just jump in,
Yep.
or was it? All right. Where was it?
You know, if we bought toilets,
No, I'm-
you guys put those in, or do we have plumbers that come and install?
It
toilets?
depends
I didn't
on
have a question.
how
That was
high
super
the
thought.
toilet sits off the floor. Because we have
Oh,
little kids toilets and adult toilets.
lighting
So
fixtures,
if it's-
79825.
Adult
It
toilet,
doesn't have a yes next to potential grants or
Because the
incentives.
piping sits too high. off.
Are there not grants available for this, you
We
think?
can change toilets. We have them in the maintenance,
I would
At the middle
imagine there
school.
would be.
as they
Yeah.
crack them.
So that's just probably just not there, just
Yeah.
typo. So there could be potential for grants.
Replacing drinking-
Yes, you mean and rebates and those type of things?
Yeah, potential grants or incentives, looking at,
It would be the same,
okay, so it's just, the yes is just a mistake, not that, why not?
or we didn't, or it's buried in there on that little, it didn't, I'm not sure. But yes, we'll add that back in there.
So there's potential for grants.
I am very curious to see, is it 10% covered? Is it 70% covered? Like,
What does this grant mean?
We can bring you back some more information.
Yeah, that would be-
Because it seems like that's an interest for sure.
Well, it-
So, yeah.
Free money? Yeah, I'm a fan.
anytime there's a line item that has the opportunity to pay us back,
Yeah,
I'm interested to learn about that. Now, honestly, even if it's 50%, like a lot of these still go out the window because,
Right.
right, we're not gonna throw $400,000 at lights for the middle school right now, probably.
Right.
But if it comes back and it's like, 90% of it's covered, then, okay, like that makes it, because then utility bills will also go down and. so.
So priorities.
we talked, and the biggest priorities, if you look at the priority ones, the
1.5
two
million.
biggest are the siding and the end of, your mechanical systems that need to be replaced. Yeah. So that's the tough one there on that one.
So recommendations, it is in summer. Now you could do part of it if you just wanted to repair what you have. If
It
you
was
want to
just
do,
repair.
yeah, if you want to do a full replacement, it might be more extensive than just during the summer. You could, something like that, you could easily do where you know that the students are going to be entering, exiting, where there might be any, you deal with that first, and then you get out of the realm of, keeping the contractor to a concise location, so they're not intermixing, and then that takes off any hazards. Reseal coping.
Just a couple of things real quick, and I'm not trying to get too down the rabbit hole in this, but obviously I work a lot with schools, and I saw a school do something like this.
Yeah.
And they found dry rot.
Yeah.
And so to mitigate that dry rot, tear it basically down the base studs, fix it.
Yep.
Suddenly that building, oh crap, we are going to be ready for the start of the school.
That's a really good point,
Pushed
Carl.
all of those kids into high school.
Yeah.
Right, which obviously is not a great deal. They have kindergartners and high schoolers in the same
Right.
building and all that stuff. So that's why I said that,
No,
don't touch
and it-
that over the summer.
And it can even get, yes, it is a rabbit, chasing this can be a rabbit hole in and of itself to see how extensive it is.
And Carl, even if we did this, and I totally agree with you, that becomes really problematic. First and foremost, we just need to do extra investigation and do a little bit more to let's start drill. If this became something a district would want, we'd want to look at this much deeper, because we can identify dry rot fairly quickly, with different techniques. But you're right, it becomes something that all of a sudden could be pushed out for the schedule, impact student capacity, impact student enrollment. It really can. Student use, excuse me. So
Yeah, I guess what I would, my feeling on it is, I'd like to get to the end of this discussion as far as the educational adequacy piece, right?
Yep.
Because if we get that information, we say, listen, not, from an enrollment or from a need standpoint, the middle school is only going to last us, another 3 or 4 years, and we're either too big for it or can't do what we need to do, well, then why drop $2 million?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yep,
And that-
because we just don't have enough information.
That is a very good point.
But just to speak to that idea of like finding surprises, I mean, this is just a funny story. I know it's wasting time, but it's hilarious. I grew up in Clark County, Washington, and in the early 2000s, they did a remodel on Columbia River High School. And they were working on the gym and they realized, oh crap, when they built this gym in the 60s, they didn't put rebar in the walls of the gym. They had to tear the whole thing down and rebuild the whole thing because it was, that hasn't fallen down.
Masonry, yeah.
Yeah, like, oh man, I'm glad it hasn't fallen down in the past, 40 years.
Wow.
So, yeah. So even if you investigate, you're gonna find stuff once you actually get it open, that's, oh crap.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's a great.
And it typically doesn't get better.
Yeah, if any building's gonna be that way, it's gonna be.
middle school.
Yeah.
All right, multi-purpose room, so, that we did this building by itself, even though I believe its sole purpose is for the middle school, correct? Is that-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
School lunchroom.
In good shape, there's only a few things that I think, we saw some water staining that could be, probably is more than likely, again, trying to trace down where in the roof do you have a roof leak.
Well, and how old is it?
Well, we had the roof replaced.
Yeah, no, it's.
But how old are the stains?
So that's it looks, the roof
Yeah.
looks to be in good shape.
Yeah.
But when you see stuff like this, I don't know did the roof come after this, Dion? So those
Yeah,
stains.
so
are
the
old.
stains were old.
Oh, from the
So-
old, oh, perfect, okay.
So, but it could be piping too.
Yeah.
because We haven't really been.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask is what space is there between the deck and the tiles? Is there space in
Yes.
there?
Mhm.
Okay, how much? Is there
I can
piping?
stand up in it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, let's see,
but I meant like, so between the deck and those tiles, you can stand between there?
Yeah, so you go through the women's restroom and you go up through the hatch and you can
So
stand.
there's an attic in there.
Mhm.
Oh.
So rich.
Extra classroom.
Science. Go down to the basement, you'll understand that joke.
How was the basement when you went to school? Was it-
What? How was it?
Yeah.
It was creepy,
Yeah.
even then. We're going down dungeon.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's the common phrase I heard is more dungeon than basement.
That's where they keep the number 10 cans of bananas.
Okay.
I just want to be clear, it's a small enough, well, it's a small facility, but in this day and age, if you did anything to it, it usually triggers anything that houses students or has students in it.
Yeah.
It's washed. The code allows, I think, 5,000 square feet. However, Washington State says no, if it has students in it.
Yeah. The RCWs may make us do it, so.
Yeah. So there again, I think priority 5. What's priority 5 on that one?
The heating system is inefficient.
So MVP,
Yeah.
occupancy comfort,
Summer work needed.
so really no recommendation for this time.
Especially since the roof is fine.
Yeah.
The steam building, I think it had one item on it.
Yeah, it was that sink thing, the flow.
It's the flow system.
We trained to take care of that.
Neat facility. Enjoyed walking through it. Doing
I use this thing on, off.
Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh.
All right, well, that's getting a little quicker. Now we're into Pop Rogers. And Pop Rogers kind of gets back to this, what we were just saying, like more of a global conversation of what is the plan? It's an older facility. It could have a ton of need that you could put into it. However, it's not really used for students, and therefore it's not an educational facility. So it's built in 1965. So it's kind of what do you want to do? There's, because you've done some over the years, probably internal renovations to it. It doesn't, there's ADA requirements that aren't compliant, but again, that's, and then you have a large storage facility for
Food bank.
the food bank. So there's plenty that you could do with it. I think it's a double white wall, meaning you have brick on the inside and brick on the outside. So I don't believe that there's a lick of insulation within the building. Therefore, once you kind of open up this can of worms and start working on it to make it compliant, you can spend a lot of money. So it's more about if
Just build the building
if it's serving the need that you need it to, it's doing.
for $1 million. Just doze it, put up a stick building.
Notice how closely the tech guy's looking at you right now, because that's.
Yeah.
Hi.
And again, I know
I'm just not there right now. A
you
kitchen.
guys built that facility. You also have the, a gal there that runs one of your local programs. I don't know.
Carol Panay,
Yeah.
Food bank,
So,
community
again,
college.
their facility, their part of Pop Rogers is fine and done recently. However, for what it's doing, for what you're using it for, it's fine. However, there are things that you could spend money on if you thought about repurposing it. So that kind of goes to a larger conversation of what is the future of Pop Rogers? Does it stay the same, or do you have different ideas or plans for it?
My main thing is, how's the roof?
It's in good shape.
All right then. It's dry.
Yeah.
That's my concern for the pop rock.
Tech will let us
Warm,
know.
safe drive. We're okay.
I mean,
Water, electricity.
And then these are a little hard to evaluate because these are kind of pole structures, right? So Dion's facilities aren't necessarily intended to be insulated, have mechanical, again, no students, they're maintenance facilities. So it's limited already in what it has within it. It has the minimal insulation, but it has large doors, so the heating requirements aren't really what you would need if you had students or administrators in it. But for what it is, it ranks very high. Again, your restroom facility out back.
is that even, we even using that for any way?
The outside restroom on the fields, yeah.
For when the community organizations use the field for soccer matches. And
Yeah,
Aren't they put it up?
they are, because someone broke in and destroyed the frame of the door.
Yeah, okay.
So, did you notice the bullet holes on the door there?
Yeah.
Those are bullet holes.
Oh.
That was nice of us to install a target for them.
Yeah.
So just one thing, I mean, perception, I always like perception too, maybe a replaced door would be.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Because I mean, people
How
come in there like, oh,
Oh, look at
Yeah.
that.
like.
Yeah, did it make it through the door?
No.
How were they shooting? Okay, so
I
like
don't know what
22,
they were shooting at.
probably 22s didn't go
Or
through the
pellet
Yeah,
gun.
or pellet gun or something.
door. Same difference.
But once again, for what it is and its use and being where it is, but the vandalism is always high on
Mhm.
structures like this, but the door held up, the drinking fountain, maybe less so, but as you can see, it's an older drinking fountain that's been around for quite some time. So nothing totally unexpected that you would see, that we normally see in this kind of facility. The heating, the ventilation in it is, by today's standards, low. But it's not freezing, it's not popping pipes or anything, it stays insulated well
It stays
enough.
fine.
Yeah,
So the biggest cost is lighting, which
Yeah,
could be a grant and.
yeah,
yeah.
or get an incentive or whatever. And it's not critical, it's just,
So there again,
Again, if they give us 90%,
okay, okay.
yeah.
even then maybe not on that.
All right, so let's go into the elementaries, Monte Cristo. Built in 95, I think it's actually might be 94, but I'm gonna double check that. The ICOSH rating is 81.
The 6 million total.
Once again, this is the perfect example of a building that's well maintained throughout the years. It's had minimal work done. However, there's certain things like windows, flooring materials, that just, you know, it's hard to continually maintain without replacing. So they held up well. But there's some water damage, tiles, again, tough to know whether that's plumbing or roof. VCT flooring, it's in good shape, or it's in reasonable shape, but it has its issues in places with, you know, once the concrete cracks, the VCT goes along with it. It starts to degrade a little faster. There's a little bit of, on the structure, there's a little bit of dry rot on these particular columns. That should probably be looked at. I don't, again, not a real safety issue at this point, but should be addressed. So to basically stop any further dry rot in those columns. Electrical fire system is non-addressable. We've talked about what that means. Consider upgrading fluorescent lights to LEDs. Once again, kind of this ESCO system. A few broken fixtures, urinal and drinking fountain, not all of them, just a few. HVA flue system shows signs of corrosion. Probably your biggest problem, which is really
HVAC.
is the HVAC. And not only is it the HVAC, but how you would replace the HVAC. There's just no room up there. It is a difficult place. So to work in and to even inspect and look at.
What I was reading between the lines is the structural work needs involved with that. Is that what I'm reading there?
Structural?
Yeah, like,
To support the equipment.
Potentially, depending on what you would do.
Yeah.
I would be
or
interested.
do we want to make it so it's easier to get to? Do we need to
Right. And
like,
so what is
it's
that?
just the buildings?
Do we create a penthouse? Do we do
Exactly.
something, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Is that why the cost is so high, or? That's what I was looking
The
at.
big word in there is redesign.
yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
cost.
And a lot of that would also mean probably to get to it, you're popping a lot of getting in the classrooms and popping tile to start working on some of the units and getting it into place because it's just not all serviceable from one area. So it would be.
So there's architectural, there's structural, there's mechanical.
It's $4 million. Yeah, which is insane for an HVAC unit, but
Well, it doesn't get any better when you get to the way.
I'm
It's very
Flies
invasive to do.
well, they're twins.
Yeah.
Although
There is some differences between.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some minor differences.
I haven't brought this up, but I still think we need to change the title of the principal at Monte Cristo to just not be the principal, just be the count. I think that's something we should do. And once a year, they should serve a Monte Cristo sandwich for lunch. Just saying.
So your windows, I can't remember, I think it's in both buildings. I don't have a picture of it in this. They had the time and we've done it as well as architects. Yeah, we put the louver blinds within the window panes, which means the kids don't destroy the blinds. However, you get no insulating value out of your window. And so.
And
And they all break and you can't fix them.
and that's what I was about to say. They're all breaking now.
Yeah.
and We're having a hard time repairing them.
Yeah.
And you can't even
Because-
find them anymore.
No.
Because
So,
Because they don't
Terrible idea.
need code anymore.
Right,
Unless you do
exactly.
the triple pane, which are hugely expensive.
Correct.
So we don't do that
Yeah,
anymore, but
you know,
yeah, those are,
it's not that they're not they're not working with the blinds. They're just, they don't have any insulating value either though. I
Right.
mean, so.
so it'd be something to consider. Once again, if it's a modernization to the building that you start to look at in additions, maybe that's something that.
Yeah, that's something we
window
can do.
repair, or maybe it once again becomes kind of an ESCO situation. The MEP breakout or the different kinds of breakouts, and then the recommended, the peeler pole, that's just something to get in front of, right, to just stop it where it's at. Could easily be done over the summer. Upgrade the fire alarm system to be a addressable system. Not a huge high priority, but could be a summer project. Flues show sign of corrosion, once again, low cost, high benefit to get in front of that. Backflow preventer, again, low cost. And easily done over summer and wouldn't require A&E services. a plumber or maybe even in-house could do that. Exterior window glazing, there's your big one, as always. And we've talked about different options for handling that. Probably not a summer job. Might be for like a McKinstry that could come in, be well prepared and just, hammer it out.
We've done that before, early procurement, start right in June.
Right.
And just walk around, and we've replaced them whole buildings in a summer, but it takes a lot of planning and thought,
Yeah.
so.
Mountain Way, again, similar, not exactly the same, but similar deficiencies that we've noticed. The peeler pools, just it's leaching water from, it's the northwest, right? The windows, same deal there, the minimal blinds, so they don't really meet the energy code. They talked about the options there, damaged, rotten back, at the main entry. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not the column, I got ahead of myself. The roof needs to be replaced soon. So once again.
What kind of roof are you talking? Are you talking about the system or just
The tab roof, just a
okay.
tab, yeah, just a regular roofing job.
Built-up roof?
Yeah, and then, of course, it's probably a need of a coat of paint, at least in places.
Sorry, just on the roof thing.
Yeah.
There's flat roof sections on the building too, right? Or is it all
Yes.
just,
No, I think there's some minor flat roofs.
and are those fine? Do we know?
I don't honestly know. There is a roofing report that we have. I can look into that.
They're all shot?
I would think, yes, if you're gonna replace the 3-tab, I would replace, because they kind of do that all as a system. They were doing that.
Well, I'm curious. So the cost to replace, it's just replaced with comparable material, or we're looking at maybe getting a new system like one of the EPDM or?
No, this is just like for like at this point.
Like for like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
3-tabs are very common because once again, they become a little easier for in-house people to maintain. As soon as we get complicated in metal roofs and all that, then you have to always get a specialist or somebody else. And so there's trade-offs to what is common amongst, and you do have a mixture of roofing types in your district, that's for sure. Mechanical, again, a few broken fixtures and drinking fountain, domestic water enters mechanical room without a double check backflow preventer. HVAC clues, leaking, corroded, and roof penetration. Penetration building appears to be under ventilated. Exterior intakes are 1/3 of the required size for proper ventilation in today's world. This school, I believe, is, because it was done in 89, it was actually under a 20-year cycle. So this, I believe you do, correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe you don't know yet, but is eligible for state funding.
Yeah.
State match.
The other one will be in 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there's some uncertainty about the middle school. When we did the upgrades in 2017, we actually touched the main building a little bit, so I think that makes it ineligible.
You can identify that, I believe. So you can just show what was modernized and then just be very clear about it on OSBI's charts that show what was worked on, what wasn't, so that square footage that wasn't worked on can still be eligible.
Okay.
You don't null and void the whole building.
Okay.
Because of that.
So we can work with you, and that's one of the next tasks that we're gonna do too, is look at eligibility for each school and all that good stuff, so.
So replace the roof. Let's see, add backflow preventer and domestic water. And that's a little different than what you have at kind of the custodial closets. But that's more for the main building, so that's probably a good one to work out, where the water enters the building. Exterior window glazing and interval blinds, similar. What we've been talking about in ESCO and replacement.
Quick question on the HVAC piece. I guess it would go for both Mountain Way and Cristo. They both don't have
Director of
cooling
regional.
capabilities right now.
Um,
And although they aren't that important, do modern, like a modern redesign, does that typically, is that assumed now that there is
Worked on
cooling
my
capabilities?
way.
Not
and we
necessarily.
40 million, we
Um,
would get.
You can get a lot of
12 to 15
airflow that can
million
kind of keep
back,
it cool and keep
which
moderate
is more like
temperatures. You also
35%,
can identify, it's very
30%.
easy to identify certain
So-
places that you want to have
That
cooling.
was
So.
Maybe the admin area that's full, used in the summer, or those types of.
Right.
every other.
Admin,
ESD has
library, gyms, oftentimes.
Construction
Get
funding
identified
expert.
as, we just
And
want to
we had
cool
a meeting with
those, but
him
not everything else.
2 years ago, year and a half ago.
Or,
And
yeah.
Well, and so-
And those can be
Lots of
specific
calculators.
selected areas.
Assuming that if there was a complete redesign to, it would take into account, hey, you're not
I
getting,
think 60%.
you're not doing any
60% is a
specific,
number.
I guess,
There's a
like
bunch of factors.
refrigerant system or whatnot.
I
However,
think that's how it
they'll
works.
probably design it in a way to regulate rooms by pumping air from one and moving around.
Absolutely. And we also look at opportunities. So on those shoulder
Presentation
seasons
on that.
in September or in May, that we've designed systems that can flush the building out in the evening, cool it down, and, and really minimize the need for cooling. It's a sustainable approach. It still works. There are times it will creep up to a little bit less comfortable temperatures for teachers at times. Then how do we address that? Can we get ventilation moving that air and those
Yeah.
things?
Well, it also goes back to the training.
Yes.
Don't open your doors
Right.
in the summer.
Right,
When the inside is cool, you're,
right.
And that's much more difficult when you're training your educators on that, because you know how that works. Screw it, I'm opening my doors and,
right.
but yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So that's the general piece of it. Any questions before we turn it a little bit over to Marshall and talk about funding options? This is our first discussion with you, so we're going to come back, do a lot of refinement from your comments today. We're going to add a whole bunch of more information from the educational adequacies. And what I think we can start doing is refining for priorities, or looking at totals of priority ones or something like that as well, and how we can march through over the next years. But Marshall, did you want to give an update on the funding before we do any of that?
I guess
You kind of
the
did.
best update I could give is we don't have a whole lot of funding.
Yeah.
We have a $750,000 capital projects levy. Of that, we try and dedicate a minimum about 50% of it to technology. And that leaves the ability, there's the ongoing stuff that we do every year, costs money. And then maybe we can free up $100,000 or $150,000 to do small projects, but that's pretty insignificant in the big scheme of things. So, we don't have any real space in the general fund to work on that stuff. It's buying supplies and replacing filters and stuff like that is about all we can do out of the general fund. Like most school districts, it's just a tight capital budget.
Yes.
And for sure, our enrollment and student needs are growing faster than our funding and our ability to capture levy dollars and things like that. We're in today's world of Washington post-COVID, we're a pretty rapidly growing school district. We're one of the few school districts that are steadily growing still, and we foresee that to continue for the 5 to 10 year future. But we're also, we ask a lot of our taxpayers. So.
Yep.
Well, and with taxes being, we'll call it the last part of it. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff on here, right? There's 25, $35 million of things. Once again, like I said, for maintenance. What options and how much of this do you foresee that could be reasonably covered
if grants are an option or matching or anything along those lines, like, as I'm just trying to see like what options are there for funding that we
Yeah,
can explore.
I think the energy efficiency things are a great option to explore. I know there are, if we really looked hard, we could probably time rebates from PUD and grants to cover significant portion of those costs. How much, I'm not sure. I mean, I see.
For like lighting and windows and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, well, maybe HVAC too. So I'm just, looking at these and just trying to figure out, right, the money has to come from somewhere. And what are our options before we,
Yeah, I mean, at this point in our budget, we could carve off little 100,000 pieces perhaps, but beyond that, we would have to be very creative in looking at possible grants, rebates, those kind of things.
Yeah, because the way I look at it, then from that, it looks like, I mean, we can cover a few of the level 1 stuff.
Yeah,
That's what you would be looking at, right?
Right.
Taking off your level 1 stuff.
Yeah. Until, because, we look at the stucco at the middle school. That's a very large cost that at some point will need to be addressed.
yeah,
And if we don't, I mean, we're not gonna pay for that, the $100,000 a year. Right. So that's just where I'm trying to understand, like, how are we planning to get this stuff done over
So there's some other funding ways.
yeah, I was gonna
Just to-
bring
oh,
that
yeah,
up.
yeah.
There's the ability to pass the non-voted on bond, as we pay. So we're gonna do a non-voted on bond to pay for the turf. And we're gonna, it's gonna be $1 million. We're gonna pay it off over 4 years. We're gonna use the state forest money to pay it off. So it's not gonna impact anything.
Yeah.
So we could get on a cycle like that, where as long as we're fairly certain that state forest revenue, and I feel like a 4-year blocks is a good window to forecast future state forest money. If you're taking it in a 4-year chunk, we could get in a rotation where we're doing this non-voted on bond every 4 years to raise $1 million to pay off over 4 years. That isn't impacting our capital project spending or our general fund spending. I think that's actually a viable option to pay for some of this stuff. But again, that's my heartburn starts happening when it goes above $1 million and our payments are more than about $250,000 a year. It starts stressing me out a little bit and making me feel like I'm not doing my best job in advising.
Yeah.
Aren't you always stressed out, Marshall?
Pretty much.
I mean, so, no
Yeah, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure it out, take the picture too, because $1 million every 4 years. I mean, it's good. It helps chip away. I mean, it's $250,000 every year.
Yeah.
Basically the equivalent. Or I mean, I guess we can do it.
Sorry. That means I need to stop eating.
We could do it, all bulk upfront, do $1 million worth of projects and everything.
Exactly.
I mean, still that's 4% or 4% or 3% of like what needs to be done. And that caps us on that for 4 years. So,
Yeah.
There's a couple other ways. I mean, there's no super easy way. You can invest capital projects money, correct me if I'm wrong, Marshall, and you could take proceeds from that investment of capital project funds and use some of the money. But that means that then that capital project money isn't available for you to use while you've got it invested.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons there. You can raise additional money due to mitigation fees. So essentially, once you're you're at capacity, you can charge mitigation fees on new housing and stuff like that. The only problem is 2 big ones. You have to be at capacity when you charge mitigation fees. And they can only be on any new homes that are permitted after that point that you apply for those mitigation fees. So you kind of miss ways, plus Grant Falls has already said that they've got a moratorium on sewer.
But that's actually a really good point, though, because the timing of this may be perfect when, if Granite Falls does everything they're planning on doing, they would have their new capacity for their water treatment plant up and running in 2024, which is, that then new houses could come in, and maybe that at that point we'd be at closer to capacity, and we can start on those new houses. Because, talking to the city, they have developers beating down their door wanting to put houses in here, but they just can't allow them because of the moratorium. So, we're having a little bit of a downturn in the housing market right now, but, in 2 years, when the sewer is up and running, maybe that's when the housing market starts to recover again. And then there's a flood of developing into Granite Falls again. So that timing might work out really well. I think there's also, I believe we could do a bank loan, off out of our general fund over however many years.
So options, pros and cons. Obviously, tonight, we're not making any decisions. I just wanted to get the discussion started.
From our other study about our 10-year growth study, didn't it say that there's about 200 permits already out there for growth?
Something like that, but I've actually gone to a couple of city council meetings, and again, Marshall, feel free to drop in here because I know you talk to Brett more than I do. My understanding is there's permits pulled, but everybody is just kind of waiting for this sewer moratorium to go, and then they're going to start building. What they're trying to do while they're pulling permits is to lock in on older codes so that they don't have to build to current codes, which has cost impacts, blah, 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 blah. So everyone's just kind of waiting in the wings. Some things he didn't think was going to go, like there's supposedly a big subdivision going kitty corner from the roundabout at the high school. But he didn't think that was going to go. I think they said like 200-300 houses or something there.
Yeah, that'd be one of those projects that has to wait for the
sewer
thing. And then there's a piece that they were talking about that if the burden on the taxpayer for putting in the new sewer reached a certain threshold, the state was going to be required to contribute some money. But they weren't sure if the cost of the project was going to meet that threshold.
Yeah. And also on that, not to go too far down that rabbit hole, but from last I heard, it's the city's intention to charge latecomers on the sewer, right? So they would have to pay latecomers on the sewer, and then we potentially have mitigation fees on top of that, right? So, when you add that together, does a developer still feel like it's financially viable? Like, we can't say. So, there's risk.
So that funding too, like as a concept, do we know, like, so roughly 300 houses, do we know how much funding that would provide?
We charge mitigation fees based upon the impact of accommodating those students' needs, right?
Yeah. So we would need to, I've never gone through the whole mitigation fees process, so we would have to ask for help from the ESD and help from Snohomish County to determine how to go through that process.
But there's no idea of like orders of magnitude. I'm just trying to figure out, like, is it like the Novo bond where we're getting $1 million over a 4-year span, or is it like $10 million of potential? Is it $50,000? Like,
theoretically, if 300 students cause you to have to build another elementary school, you could split up the cost for that elementary school divided by 300, theoretically.
Okay.
When Suncrest Farms went in, we ended up we thought we'd maybe get, 1.5 students per household, just on an average, but we ended up getting about, 0.6 or something.
Okay.
So I would probably guess that new developments are going to be probably in that range of.
Yeah, and it's just, as I'm looking over this, I said, it's my big concern is these are all things that eventually have to get done.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing on this list that I look at and
aside from maybe like the fluorescent lights, being changed out, but those even have a benefit to them of, switching over. But I mean, whether it be 5 years, 10 years down the road or whatever, like windows are going to need to be replaced, stucco is going to need to be done. Like, and so this is just a lot of like, I'm sitting here trying to fundraise effectively and figure out like, where is 24 to $35 million going to come from?
Yeah.
So that's our project, I guess, for the next year and a half or two.
Do you have this file for us, like not on paper, so we can sort it our own?
Yeah, it was emailed.
Yeah, I think it was sent. If not, we absolutely, the answer is yes.
Well, I was gonna, on that same note, can we get one with the corrections we talked about?
Yeah, let's update it, see, we'll get you out to it. And because as a team, we're gonna have to figure out what are those chunks that we can hit for the priority summer work. We haven't got there yet. And we'll come back. We're gonna have to talk about, because if capacity and enrollment and structural adequacy, those could be big ticket items too, right? So we're gonna have to get the full scope back to you as well, so.
Yeah.
Because when they visit with Mountain Way, there's probably no doubt that they're going to say, yeah, all of our classrooms are in use, all of our portables are in use.
So what's the addition?
And
How much do we need? How many?
Probably with our growing community, we probably need 5 or 6 classrooms. And what is that? Is that portables? And that's where the community feedback comes. Is that portables? Is it another wing of the school? Is it a new school?
Crossroads too, I think has doubled over the past couple of years. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they're, bursting at the seams over there too, so.
And they've got waiting lists for kids to get in there too, so.
And I mean, I'm sure you guys all know this, but and then when you build in BLRB can talk to this, when you drop into the, okay, well, we have to build another school, like that is a monumental task.
Yes.
To my knowledge, we own no property, right? That we're just sitting on for 20
That's not true,
acres.
Carl. We have a piece of land that's like this big.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even kidding. It's surrounded by a bunch of other land that has no access. Somebody donated it to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It has no access.
It has no access and it is. Yeah.
So you've got to, you can't build it in the summer, right? So now you got to go, okay, well, if I don't have land to build and I'm just trying to build it, I mean, I've seen some, I know Auburn did some where they built it on a play field. Actually, I think I was working with you guys on that job. And then
You knock it down, make
you
the
knock
play
it
field.
down and stuff like that, but you can't do that at Mountain Way. Probably can't do that at Monte Cristo either. Definitely can't, thinking about it, right? That's moving it way closer to those houses back there. So that's challenging, right? So the only valuable output, so we haven't even talked about, if that was even a road, buying the property, what do you buy it with? Where do you get the money, right? Where is it located? What services do you need to bring into that property, right? So we're going through this the right way, slow and methodical. That's why, and I meant, hopefully you didn't take any offense, Director Lou. I'm just saying, let's, if that's where we end up, then that's where we end up. But I think if we point to, okay, let's figure out a way that we can make this work without, doing those types of things, that's best. But, there's other options, I think, potentially where we might have to make a right turn.
Carl, just to emphasize some of the discussion we've had, and you shared this with us too, is there's plenty on this list, and there's plenty on this priority 1 list that we can effectively do without impacting our that doesn't, all of a sudden, it's not wasted in our long range facility plan, if you will, right? If that we're not just going to throw dollars at it and all of a sudden then in 2024 have some remodel or renovation that deals with that. We can pick and choose selectively really good uses of our dollars.
Yeah. And that was the whole intent. We're to spend the little bit of money that we have as effectively and in the exact right places as possible.
Yeah.
And that to me is shows that we are being very good stewards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of public money.
And once again, to tag on to that conversation, that's also why I think the high school looks attractive, right? Because once again, it's a building that was recently built. By spending the money there, that is a building that isn't going to get a tear down, a remodel or anything like that. So protecting that investment, you can be assured that those dollars are well spent for the long-term life of that building versus, talking today, thinking about even potentially next summer versus something else that we may find is, added on to, they're torn down and no redo. So it kind of helps assure that those dollars are protected.
That's what we have. Next steps, next couple of days, we're gonna meet with a good group of you folks, key educators, talk about your schools, and then we'll work once again with this team. Let's get back in front of you. Let's talk about what we found. We'll update this, get it out sooner than that, of course, but we'll add to this list and we begin that prioritization and discussion again.
When we meet again, so let's just say hypothetically, you go through, all the different schools and you learn that, right, from a space perspective, there's, we need to build some sort of a new facility and we need to go through, will that be presented as like one of the options as well, as opposed, because I picture that for me, it's really hard to grasp, again, not being an educational planner of, any sort, but like, there are so many different options, right? There's expanding on buildings, there's building a new school, there's repairing the ones, in certain fashions. And then there's, building out buildings, and there's all sorts of different options. And I feel like I'm always going to have the question of, well, if we're looking at expanding on schools, if that's going to be presented, was building another school thought through? And if it was, why aren't we going down that path and kind of seeing the 30,000 foot view, so to speak? So
that really is that next long range facility plan.
Okay.
We'll identify the need. We'll give some, well, if we need 7 classrooms at Mountain View or whatever it becomes, we'll give some general components and elements for discussion. We will not solve it and plan it immediately. We'll bring that forward. To me, that's that long range facility plan. We have stakeholders to discuss pros and cons of a new facility, of an addition, of where to go. Those are those types of questions that would extend out in that planning process.
I mean, I guess in my vision personally is that the meetings over the next 2 days will identify that
the need.
maybe we need 7 classroom spaces at Mountain Way, and maybe we need ECAP space at Monte Cristo that's different than what it is. Maybe we need some expansion at the middle school, and then we get into the community forums and we say, here's what we're identified need are. What is your vision for how your school district should look? Do you want portable classrooms everywhere? Do you want another wing? Do we want a new elementary school? What would make this community proud and want to support? That's my personal, how I feel like communities can take pride and ownership and want to be involved in their school districts is if they have kind of a say in the vision and maybe help direct us to what the community views the school districts to be. And hopefully they view it as this prized possession of the community that should be magnificent and a great place for students to be. And that's my hope.
And you had mentioned in terms of gathering community input, we will kind of like cross that bridge when we get there. But have we discussed it all? I know we have like, a yes committee, for the levy. Are we doing something like setting together a group of people that are going to be calling, knocking on doors, emailing, because it's a lot easier to not do something.
Absolutely.
Right? It's to do something. And, just voting, right? It's a perfect example of so many people think, my opinion doesn't really matter, but it really does in a situation like this, to your point, right? Is everybody has a really strong opinion about the way that they want the school district to look. But sometimes it's just, it's making it the easiest way for them to give that opinion to us. And so maybe that's something worth looking into. Some sort of a committee or something like that.
That's what we've recommended
Okay.
is a broad-based stakeholder. We call it a design advisory committee, a long-range facility planning committee. We can call it whatever we want. But, group of 30 folks, with different backgrounds, different understandings, different involvement, and then really start to bet. But along with that is other opportunities for community engagement and feedback. So bringing, that's going to be that advisory committee that really shapes and finalizes, but we're going to constantly go back out to the community and get their feedback in different types of forums, social media, et cetera.
Okay.
For the updated thing, Dale, there were a few things you said we do that, like the the toilet sinks, drinking fountains that are cracked. So are we just removing those from this?
Let's work with Dion. What things would you like? We did that again. Let's go and scour it one more time and we'll take those off, you know. We heard some things about reprioritization, like the addressable fire alarm. I think we've had it at priority 1. We're gonna move it to priority 2, you know, those types of things that we've marked out
I
as
would
well.
move something up. It's the lighting, the exterior lighting at the high school, because it is dark as a hole after some of those band concerts and things at night. It's like 2 light bulbs for the whole, like coming out. I can't see the curve.
But that
like-
sounds like something that might be addressed.
Yeah, you've
Yeah.
already
I'm just
addressed.
saying, like, if
But-
there's something for the tiny little bit of money we have, it's so dark out there at night. It's just
And I'm,
like, see where to even step off the curb in some parts of the school. 'Cause it's-
So I've replaced all the exterior lights with LED, so.
And
We
all the
just
ones that
haven't-
are out or replaced.
Yes, we haven't replaced the parking lot lights with
They
LED
weren't
yet.
turning on. Like they turn
So
on
some of
during
them
the
are-
day and then
So
at night.
some of them are motion to save energy. It's like out here, it'll be dark, but as soon as you walk under the lamp, it will light up.
Close to
It's
the
our energy
sensor.
saver. Yeah.
I was doing my best at one.
Was it the ones in the front? Or are you talking about the 4 light poles in the front? Yeah, we replaced them. They work now. Yeah.
Because I couldn't see I seriously couldn't see to step on.
To step
Like,
out
I'm
of
like,
it, right.
feeling with my
Yeah.
foot for the.
Oh, the ones that were. in
The 4
sidewalk.
poles at the sidewalk. So.
All right, that's all.
I'm not the company.
All right, well, thank you very much.
well, thank you. Good discussion. Thank you.
Thanks for the discussion, and
Thank you,
for
guys.
our calendar, that means we get like 13 minutes back.
Yeah.